Sup, my dudes, Valkyrja. Today I want to talk about Eula working in specifically with Eula's ult working with Mika. I've seen a lot of people upset that whenever you use Eula's burst to, for example, like you go ahead, you pop, you do this, but then you quick swap out, that does not work with Mika's buff. Now, what buff am I talking about? I didn't pull Mika. I wanted to do one multi, ended up doing 3, got 4 stars, and, well, actually 5 if I count the weapon. But the 4 stars I got were Dory, Diona, and then Sucrose. So I'm not getting Mika. But I can still sit here and talk about this because it's very specific how this works. So he gives up to a 30% physical damage boost at C0. And very key word is when they are on the field. Now, if you go back and you look at what my Eula burst just was, whenever Eula burst actually goes off, it takes about a half second to land. So, essentially, the way the interaction works is if you quick swap, if you're swapping to trigger the burst early, it won't get the 30% damage boost, very simply because Eula's not on the field when it goes off. It's literally that easy. It just comes down to the fact that Mika literally says on the field, and you have to be on the field when the actual burst itself lands, which is about 0.5 seconds after the sword pops. After you get the animation of the sword popping, the burst then lands. It's, like I said, it's about half a second. Now, I don't see it really as an issue with her burst. I see it more as an issue with Eula's C1. Eula's C1, let me go ahead and trigger it so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. But whenever you actually consume 2 Grimheart stacks, you create a little baby ult. Like here, you'll see a little baby ult pop up. That time, I do quick swap a lot with this. But as for Eula's ult itself, I normally stay in for the full duration to get the maximum stacks possible to get it. So if I had Mika, the buff would be active for me and working. And I would get my 30% extra damage boost. And then I've seen a lot of people say also that Bennett is better than Mika. And unfortunately, that's true for just about any stat boosting support in the game. Any character that's not based on elemental reactions, but is more so based on like raw stats, normally Bennett is the absolute best support for them. The only thing Bennett does that kind of messes with Eula a little bit is the fact that Bennett, as long as he's not C6, if he's C6, he's straight up unusable with Eula. But a C5 Bennett and below will actually mess up elemental reactions because you really need to do superconduct like that. You really need superconduct to pop so you can deal the absolute most damage as Eula. Without superconduct, you're really not doing a lot. That's one of the most important things of running a physical damage dealer is actually having superconduct trigger. So I still think Mika is really good despite what everybody has been saying, specifically for Eula, nobody else. Very nuanced reasons. The 22% in attack speed at level 10, I believe, it allows you to get really close to actually doing the 3rd hit of this animation during the burst timing. So you can basically do 1 rotation, and if you find a way to actually speed it up, you should be able to get that hit off. And the reason this hit's significant is because this hit will give you 2 stacks. So if you can get this hit off, you should be able to generate 2 stacks with it. So that's a very significant increase. You should be able to get 2 stacks off. So it helps you get potentially 1 to 2 more hits. If you can get that hit specifically off, you can generate 3 extra stacks off of her or off of Mika's buff alone, which gives you in total, like, I think it's around 150%. I don't know because mine's level 13, so I get 188% per stack. But I believe at level 10, it's somewhere around 150%. I'm just going to use that as like an average so you guys get an idea. So you get around 450% extra damage off of just the burst because it's letting you get a couple more... off of Eula's burst because Mika's buff is letting you get a couple more hits. So that's one thing, right? That's something to keep in mind too. It lets you get about potentially 3 more stacks. I'm not entirely sure because I don't have Mika to play test, unfortunately. But hey, luck said, is what it is. But I did play test Mika within the trial, and the heal is actually significant enough to the point where it will help out, and you can run because normally this team looks something like this. Like, let me swap over to the team real quick to give you an idea of why the healing is incredibly important. You're mostly going to have this. You're going to have Cryo Resonance, although Cryo Resonance isn't the biggest deal with Raiden because she's going to constantly remove the Cryo onto the enemies. Like, she's probably going to constantly trigger Superconduct, so you're probably never going to get the Cryo Resonance also off. But Mika will be that little bit of energy generation that Eula needs whenever she's paired with Raiden. So in this team comp, if you replace Chi-Chi with Mika, I think it works phenomenally personally. But to each their own, right? So yeah, that's basically it. Hopefully that explains why the interaction works the way it does. It's not that Mika doesn't support Eula's burst. It's that for some reason, people are wanting to run a quick swap Eula, which I don't recommend doing. I recommend building the burst as much as possible. And it doesn't affect the burst whenever you swap Eula off the field to pop it early. But it does still affect the burst as long as Eula is on the field whenever it resolves, essentially, in Yu-Gi-Oh terms. Whenever the burst actually hits the ground and booms, as long as Eula is on the field, it will affect it. So that's sort of that. I don't believe you should be running Eula in Quick Swap. Like I said, the only thing that I can see that really affecting is passive 1. That I understand. That's kind of annoying. But everything else, the buff should actually be affecting because Eula should be the active character on the field. She demands a high active uptime. It's why her raw damage is so damn high, because she demands a lot of on-field time, but she makes up for it in just straight damage. Anyways, hopefully this video, I know I don't have any like visuals to show you guys to show exactly what I'm talking about because I didn't pull Mika, so I can't like record visuals. But hopefully this makes a lot more sense for you guys. Hopefully this answers all your questions with Mika and Eula's ult and that interaction specifically. I don't think it's as big a deal as people are making it out to be, but yeah, Mika does buff Eula's ult, just she has to be the active on-field character. If you read Mika's passive, you'll see that it says active character or on-field character. It says, so she has to be on the field, right? Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If there's anything else or you want to add to this conversation, anything more or less you want to add to it, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.